Joined now by Rick Broering, the publisher of MusketeerReport.com and Northern Kentucky's radio analyst, as we get a preview of the Horizon League tournament and we take a look at where Xavier stands going into the final week of their regular season. Before we get going with all of that, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the Rebound Rundown's new YouTube channel. And if you're listening to this in audio form, or I guess watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed in audio form yet, you can listen to the whole show on whatever podcast platform you want to listen on. All right, Rick, great to catch up with you here and talk about a couple of big storylines. And first, we're going to start with the Horizon League tournament. March is here and conference tournament season is already upon us. It's hard to believe that's where we are, but that's the situation we find ourselves in. The Horizon League tournament starts tonight on Tuesday, as you all are listening to this right now. Northern Kentucky plays their opener tonight. So we'll start with Northern Kentucky, but then I want you to take us through the rest of the league as well for maybe some people that are interested in a full Horizon League tournament preview. What do the Norse have to do to stay as hot as they have been lately and pull off a Northern Kentucky special to win this thing? And then maybe talk about some of the other, big points heading into this tournament as well.
Well, I think for NKU, one thing that stands out about this recent surge they've had, winning their last 4 games of the regular season and obviously playing really good basketball once the calendar flipped to February on, is the defense has picked it up in a big way. And when you're going up against this Detroit team, Detroit has really struggled offensively. They have the worst 2-point field goal and 3-point field goal percentage in the conference. They're averaging just like 0.8 points per possession, I believe, right now. So scoring for them has been a struggle at times this year. They beat NKU the last time these two teams played in Detroit. NKU was in a bit of a funk at that time, and Dan Goretzka obviously hadn't emerged yet and played the way he's been playing over the last few weeks. But it's enough to give you a little pause and make you worry and take this Detroit team seriously. But at the same time, you have to think with the way NKU's been playing defensively, that would set up well for this matchup against Detroit.
The Horizon League reseeds after the first round of their conference tournament. So what are you looking at here on the opening night with these games that are going to be played, the opening round of the Horizon League tournament? What are you looking at as potentially some shakeups heading in to the second round?
Well, if things go chalk, then NKU would be headed to Cleveland State for the quarterfinals. But we looking at a game that could potentially throw a wrench in that. Oakland and Green Bay just played in the final game of the regular season. It was a game that went to overtime in Green Bay, a really closely contested game there. They now have a rematch in the first round of the Horizon League tournament. Now, this game is in Oakland, so that'll be a bit different. But if Green Bay were to pull that upset, then NKU could be headed to Milwaukee instead of on to play Cleveland State.
Robert Morris won the Horizon League regular season title. They finished the conference season at 15-5. They got the number 1 seed in the tournament. What impressed you about Robert Morris this season, Rick, and what they could potentially do here over the next week?
Well, they have the player of the year in the conference. We just found out today as we're recording this, Alvaro Fulgaris, a forward who is just a sophomore and really made a huge stride from his freshman year to his sophomore year, where, last year he was just a guy that was out there, a role player who looked like he had a little bit of potential. This year, a go-to player on the offensive end, skilled, can play inside and out, and a really big-time rebounder. That's where he really impressed me, is his ability to go and get the ball on the glass, both offensively and defensively. When you look across the conference, he's one of those guys, Paul, that with the way the sport is set up now, you start thinking about transfer portal candidates and guys who could move up to the next level and make an impact at the high major level potentially next season. Alvaro Fulgaris is going to be one of those guys that we're talking about here coming into the spring. And obviously he's led Robert Morris to a really great season, their first big-time winning season since they joined the Horizon League. But it's not just him. They have another forward in Amarion Dickerson, who's kind of like more of the heart and soul toughness guy, rebounding forward to go alongside him. And with those two combined inside, it makes for a mobile, athletic, tough front court that really rebounds the ball well. And they also have Cam Woods, a guy who's played at the high major level, who's athletic and a ball handler and is more than willing to step up and take shots when needed.
Robert Morris has only lost one game since January 8th, a really impressive flip of the calendar to 2025 and how they finished the season. We've talked about a lot of these teams in the Horizon League already, Rick, but you can go with the chalk answer of Robert Morris. You can talk about somebody else if you want to. Outside of Northern Kentucky, is there a team that you feel like heading into the Horizon League tournament is hot right now or maybe set up best for success to make a run over the next 8 days?
I think Milwaukee is always an interesting team to keep an eye on. They've won 5 of their last 6 to end the regular season, and they're an athletic team. They get after you defensively. They were there last year, so they have a sour taste in their mouth that they weren't able to get it done last season, and Oakland pulled off the championship win. So I imagine they'd like to get back. Obviously, you have a lot of turnover with the transfer portal being what it is, so it's not all the same guys, but there are a few who certainly remember that game and that missed opportunities. So I imagine they're going to be a tough out this year. And similar to Robert Morris, they're a team that really rebounds the ball well. Their front court can be difficult to handle for other Horizon League teams. So they're a team that I'd say to keep an eye on.
All right, let's talk about the Xavier Musketeers now, Rick, because they are coming off a big win this weekend over Creighton, a win that really moved the needle nationally as far as buzz and national attention goes. They've started to figure out that they are the team that is deciding to win games to get into the NCAA tournament, as opposed to all of these other bubble teams that are seemingly trying to play their way out of the tournament right now. Xavier has 2 huge games this week. One against Butler on their senior night on Wednesday night. We've covered that extensively. And then Xavier's senior night at the Cintas Center on Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock against Providence. First, your takeaway, Rick, from this performance against Creighton.
Well, Paul, it's just everything you were looking for if you're a Xavier fan or if you're a bracketologist trying to figure out what to do with Xavier at the moment. I mean, it's not just that they won the game, right? It's that they controlled the game, dominated it, were able to win by a big margin, much more than expected. So you helped out the metrics as much as you could. I mean, everything went right in this game for the Musketeers. So I think that was the most exciting part, is the way they took care of business and continued to look like a team that's playing its best basketball at the right time of year. It's not just you beat up on some teams that you were favored against and were towards the bottom half of the league. It's you also got a big win against Creighton and continued this momentum. So I think it's exciting from a standpoint of having the potential for an at-large bid. It's also exciting from the standpoint of, if you're a Xavier fan, I think you feel like you're going into Madison Square Garden with a real chance to make some noise.
Since February 10th, you can do all the data and run the numbers on Bart Torvik, but you can see that on his site since February 10th, Xavier is 5-0. As we know, they haven't lost a game, but they're also playing as the 11th best team in the country. And it just goes to show, metrics wise, it's not just passing the eye test and everything else. Even by the numbers, by the metrics, Xavier is really playing at an elite level right now, but their job is to get into the tournament and show that they can do this here in the postseason after starting the season slow, right? They didn't have the November, they didn't have the December that they wanted to, and they dug themselves into a hole that now they have to climb out of. They've done a great job of that. There's a couple rungs of the ladder left still to climb out of that hole, but they're right there. They can see the opportunity in front of them. Rick, last time Xavier played Butler, I thought they matched up exceptionally well with them. Xavier really did anything they wanted offensively against Butler. The zone gave Xavier a little bit of trouble when Butler went zone. But overall, what are you thinking about this game heading into Wednesday night at Hinkle Fieldhouse?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a matchup standpoint or on paper view, you feel really good about Xavier's chances. But it's all the other stuff, right? The fact that it's the rivalry, how seriously Butler people take the game against Xavier, the fact that it's their senior day, the fact that it's their chance to spoil Xavier's chances at an at-large bid. I mean, there's a lot there in this game. And also, I mean, you mentioned the zone. I think when you're looking at what can Butler do differently, it will feel almost like desperation, I think, for them to pull off this win. So it wouldn't surprise me if they try to junk it up the entire game and go back to that zone and just hope that Xavier plays tight on the road in a weird atmosphere at Hinkle Fieldhouse and doesn't shoot the ball well. And I think if you're a Xavier fan, that's what makes you nervous. It's just that Xavier doesn't live up to the team they've been over the last few weeks, and they just can't make a shot, and they get tight and they don't play their game.
Xavier right now, as we check into this on Monday night as we record this, Xavier's the 7th best 3-point shooting team in the country. You have to feel like if they go zone and Xavier's able to get some looks and can shoot Butler out of that zone, if that is what the Bulldogs choose to do, the way that Xavier's shooting the ball lately, especially Dante Maddox, Dante Maddox and what he's been doing over the last couple of months has been insane, and it's raised the ceiling of this team.
Yeah, it really has, Paul. And all signs point to Xavier being a bad team to zone. Like that would not work well against them. Now, I will say, very few teams have tried it against them this year, but the results have been pretty favorable for the defenses that have gone zone. Xavier has not shot the ball well. They have not been very efficient. But again, it's such a small sample size. No one's really tried it for extended periods except for Butler in that game. So I don't know that we really have much to go off of there. But I don't think, because Butler is not an athletic team and their style of defense, what they're trying to do, kind of plays into what Xavier wants on the offensive end, the style of defense that they've had most success against this year. So I just don't see Butler having much of a chance if they come out and just try to do exactly what they did to start the first game.
Well, and that was what I was going to ask you, because I think a lot of times when we cover these games and we talk about this, we podcast about it, we write articles about it, all of that, we get caught up in maybe the one storyline or the one thing that sticks out. And yeah, Butler went to zone for some possessions in that game the first time. And yeah, Xavier didn't shoot great and they went a little cold. But you have to think both teams and both coaching staffs recognize that point as well. And the fact that Butler may be sitting there saying, yeah, we're going to go 40 minutes of zone. And from Xavier's perspective, you have to think that the coaching staff would be prepared for that. And on the flip side, if you're Butler, you might be going, well, maybe we don't go 40 minutes of zone because maybe they are preparing for that from the flip side. It's a chess match, but you also don't want to overblow that point as well, right? Or am I reading too much into that?
No, I think that's right. I mean, there's a fairly decent chance that we see zero zone in this game at all.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And we're talking way too much about it. There's definitely that possibility, Paul. But again, if that is the case, then I think as a Xavier fan, you feel pretty good about your chances. Like if I'm a Xavier fan trying to figure out what is the thing to worry about, it's that Butler does something funky. They muck it up. It's an ugly game. Xavier gets tight and can't shoot, and it kind of snowballs on them, and they just don't play like the team they've been. That is the path to a loss, in my opinion. Otherwise, it really does feel like a great matchup for Xavier.
Yep. All right, Rick, best of luck to you and the Norse as you get started in the Horizon League tournament tonight. Where can people listen to you on the radio and follow along with your coverage going into the tournament?
Yeah, we're actually bumped to the Project for this game on Tuesday night. So find us on the Project on your radio dial or on the app. And then obviously we'll probably be back on one of the other ESPN 1530 or Fox Sports 1360 the rest of the Horizon League tournament.
And then your Xavier coverage as well?
Obviously, you can just find that at musketeerreport.com, at Musketeer Report on Twitter, and you can always follow me on Facebook. You can poke me there.
All right. Thanks, Rick. We appreciate it, and talk soon.
Thanks, Paul.